This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. I've been trying to figure out Twitter. What the hell is the purpose? Who has the kind of time needed to be involved in conversations all day long about issues that are inconsequential? I mean, for example, when it comes to investing, we know what the fucking deal is. There's no piece of information, no new piece of information that's going to come along on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever day that dictates what you should do next. Now, if you're using Twitter as an educational space to learn how things are done, to learn from the best and see how things are really done, that's smart. But once you know it, once you know what's going on, what's it good for? I mean, to be involved in these conversations where you're trying to convince people that have some rock hard bias that they can't overcome, somebody steeped in cognitive dissonance, they can't escape it. And we're pretty much in a world of at least two distinct teams. What's the argument point about? You have to take a step back for yourself. Why am I doing this? What's the purpose? Now, don't get me wrong. I would love to have more followers on Twitter. I'm sure it will help my economics. But to get those more followers, I have to be engaged all day long with hundreds and thousands of people and reading their stuff. Now, I like reading insights from people that I follow. I like reading insights from very bright, accomplished people that have really done the work. And I do my level-headed best to filter through and find out who those people are. And I follow maybe roughly 100 people. I could probably follow thousands, but I don't know of them. So I try to keep kind of efficient on who I follow, people that I can really learn from. But what are you doing with it? I mean, if you get what's going on, if you get what you need to do for your life, for your family, your friends, whatever, if you get what you need to do for your investments, and look, I'm not saying I'm not guilty of this. I can be guilty of this, especially on Facebook sometimes. But I feel like we're reaching the point of jumping the shark in terms of arguing with each other over points. Do you really care what some complete stranger thinks? Why would you care? No, what we really care about is ourselves, how we can make ourselves better, how we can perhaps make some more money. That's the real focus. And as a PSA on Twitter, a completely side note, I highly recommend the Joe Rogan podcast with Jack Dorsey and Tim Pool. Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, Tim Pool, an investigative reporter. What a fabulous conversation on Joe Rogan's show. That's just kind of my opening salvo today, what I've been thinking about. Like, what's the purpose of all this kind of stuff, you know? But what I really wanted to talk about today are two particular investing issues that I think are really misunderstood. Someone wrote me the other day, they started talking about Dunn Capital and trend following investing. Dunn Capital has been around since the early 1970s. They have a 40-plus year track record in trend following trading. And they've beat the pants off the S&P for 40-plus years. Now, you don't beat the pants off the S&P without taking some risk, and they take risk. No doubt about it. but their track record is on file. Comparing their track record compounded against the S&P compounded, it's all on file. You can check it out. It's interesting as hell, because when you take that higher percent per year and you compound it over a long damn time, you can really end up with something big. So someone writes me the other day talking about the Dunn track record. And this individual kept talking about consistency. In his mind, he wants consistency. That's what he wants. He wants to make a certain percent every year. Like there's a tree, a money tree where it all grows on. How the hell did that become a something? How did consistency in market returns become a something? Who told this guy? Who taught this guy? Where did he learn that it might be doable to supposedly make 8% per year or whatever number he's thinking of? Do you think like that? Do other people think like that? I don't talk to these kinds of people on a regular basis. I think anybody that thinks life is a straight line, no ups and downs, and I say this kindly with all due respect, could be a fucking moron. Now, I'm not saying the person that wrote me about Dunn Capital is a fucking moron. But where the hell, how the hell do you possibly think that life, the markets, business, entrepreneurship are possibly consistent? What is consistent? Bond returns, T-bills, that's consistent? Well, it's been consistently at 0 for a decade. And it's even more interesting in the sense that this guy is fixated on Dunn, fixated on the risk that Dunn is taking, wants consistent returns, and in his conversation to me does not even bother to acknowledge the drawdowns of 50% twice that the S&P has taken in the last 20 years, or to acknowledge that the NASDAQ dropped 77%. Doesn't even acknowledge this. I mean, if you walk into the fire and you say, okay, this Dunn Capital track record is really interesting, or any other long time trend following track record is very interesting. And if you immediately start picking it apart without looking at the alternatives, again, who taught someone to think this way? How does someone think this way? Let's say you hate trend following. That's great. I don't care. I really don't care. Let's say you love trend following. That's great too. I really don't care. I'm driven by just getting good information out into the public debate, the public discourse. That's what I want to do. But it is absolutely amazing how many people run their life with logical fallacies. Here's another example, a little unrelated, but makes the point. I recently posted some stats about the numbers of people that are killed each year by opioids, basically heroin, or drunk driving, or lightning, or dog bites, shark bites, you name it. White supremacist killings, inner city killings in Chicago. The raw data, no rates, the raw data. Now you would think in the last 2 years that America is this KKK hood-wearing lunatic place of all of these just awful people that are racist. I mean, if you watched some of the major news that's played out by the likes of a CNN, that's what you would think in the last 2 years. Now, if you post all the raw data, you can quickly see, well, our real focus should be on opioid deaths, drunk drivers, these kinds of things, right? Diabetes, places where you can really see massive amounts of death, and places where we can fix things. Now, by comparison, the losers in America that are white supremacist, the violence that they commit is infinitesimal. Yes, they're responsible each year for a small number of killings, like less than 20. And by no means does that discount the violence that they put upon society. But where is the perspective? Where is the damn perspective? Now, just like the guy with the done capital data kind of goes into a cognitive dissonance, he can't really digest it. He sees only the negative side of done capital, has this fantasy in his head about consistent returns, and ignores the alternatives. When I post the data on the opioids, the white supremacist, the inner city Chicago killings, drunk driving, most responses, people said, well, gosh, that's really interesting. Why are we fixated on something that is not our most pressing problem? Two people, however, you could see went straight into full-blown cognitive dissonance. One immediately came at me with, oh, you're not worried about the violence and death put forward by the white supremacist? Completely ignoring the issue of scope, totality, the real raw data, and just wanted to get the cheap shot. Just wanted to get, you must be somebody that likes that kind of thing. But you can see, this is the conditioning that's been going on for the last couple years. This is where people want to go in their mind. Somebody else also pushed straight into cognitive dissonance by the raw numbers, immediately came back to me and said, what about illegal immigration and their killings or their homicides? Why don't you talk about that? That's something Trump wants to talk about. Now, I don't give a rat's you-know-what about whether it's Beto O'Rourke or Trump or whatever. I really don't care. But it was interesting to watch the thinking, to see the machinery, to see the gears going on inside this guy's head. That when he sees these statistics that I give, he has to bring in something else to change the subject, to make him feel good, because he could not accept, he could not admit that the focus on all of this racism stuff that America does is kind of silly, because America does not have this massive problem. He could not do it. Now, it doesn't mean that America doesn't have a problem, but we've just lost touch with reality. And my point right now isn't to even get into the debate about these particular issues. It's more how people think, how they look at information, how they digest, how they make decisions, how they move forward. And people are so damn preoccupied with defending their ego, defending what they think they know, defending their political team, that they can't even make good decisions for themselves. It's absolutely fascinating. Here's another really big issue when it comes to the markets. People text me all the time and they say they want to be an FX trader, or they say they want to trade one market alone. So whether they're coming at it from some stock index or some particular currency, they want to trade one market alone. Where does anyone get the idea that you can be successful trading one market alone? Where does that come from? Who teaches that? It's not possible. I mean, it's possible in the sense that if you buy and hold the S&P, you're going to get the return the S&P gives you. Absolutely. And for many people, that can be fine. That can be great. That can be what they want. But you're not going to trade the S&P and do a hell of a lot better than just buying and holding the S&P if the only thing you're trading is the S&P. How are you going to do that? Now, yeah, I had a guest on recently trained by Monroe Trout who beats the S&P. It's the only thing he trades. Were you trained by Monroe Trout? You see, there's some strategies that are actually learned and passed along, something like trend following. But for those people out there that think they're going to be these one market experts So what are you going to apply? Trend following to one market? You're going to use technical analysis on one market? Fundamental analysis on one market? Seriously, how does that work? What's the decision-making process? Now, we know in the last 10 years, especially, that the people across disciplines who are really succeeding are coming at life, their business, their entrepreneurship, their sports management, their venture capital. They're coming at it from a numbers approach, and they're coming at it from a trend following approach. And the way they approach it, whether it's a sports team, venture capital, financing films, or trend following, is you basically start the year flat. Now, this is just an example. You don't start the year flat. Frankly, the start of the year is an arbitrary start point. It doesn't really mean anything. But for sake of argument, you start the year flat. You don't know what's going to happen. You have no earthly idea what's going to happen. So you got to make bets. Lots of bets. At least a number of bets that can give you enough edge over time where some of those bets don't work out and some of those bets become massive home runs, big winners. That's life. I write about this in my trend following book. I put all the examples in there to show people the philosophical mindset behind this. Once you have the philosophical mindset down, how hard are rules? Well, coming up with the rules, not that hard. Sticking with the rules, that's harder. But so many people don't get it's the foundational way of looking at life. So on one side of the ledger, I've got the people that text me and ask about trading one market alone or currencies alone. And then I have the other side of the ledger where people get this. They get that they need to have a wide perspective and they need to take bets. If you imagine yourself as the wizard sitting there at your desk with the ability to pick the one winner, and you're not contemplating loss, if you're not contemplating the fact that you're going to pick things that are just dogs, and you've got to have a way to get out really quick to save your skin to come back to play another day, to hopefully capture the big winner, you're toast. You're absolutely toast. My point today is not to pick on the people that I've used as examples, but to show their way of thinking. You know, sometimes either a career, some good job, or a degree, or a certain amount of money in the bank causes people to be stupid. Seriously. They unwind the spring and they don't want to think anymore. I mean, if you got enough money in the bank, you can just do whatever the fuck you want to do. But if you really want to achieve over the long term and have that constant edge, you can't be arrogant. You can't be lazy. You can't have a massive ego. You got to dial it back. That's why I love doing this podcast, especially the interviews with the behavioral experts. And I got to tell you, if you're new to this podcast, and I'll leave this for you going out, if you're new to this podcast, go check out trendfollowing.com/behavior. That is my best current aggregation of all of my favorite psych episodes. Because that's what I'm really talking about on this particular episode right now, is the psych side, the mental side, the human behavior side. How the hell do you think? Are you loaded down with logical fallacies? Have you got so many biases you don't even know what color the sky is anymore? Go to that link, trendfollowing.com/behavior. And remember, as one big takeaway, knock it off about the consistent returns. Forget that. And trading one market alone is fool's gold, unless you're happy as a pig in shit with your S&P buying and holding. And if you're happy as a pig in shit with your S&P buying and holding, sure as hell, please stop listening to me. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.